What if Darth Vader joined the Bad Batch? Before we begin, check out the voice actors Nick Cortez and the Shapeshifter. Their links will be in the description. Let's begin this during the night it all changed. Palpatine's voice echoed through the helmet of every clone trooper. Execute Order 66. The words, simple yet devastating, triggered a transformation in the minds of the Bad Batch. Unlike in the original timeline, where only Crosshair's inhibitor chips activated, this time, all members felt the surge of control seize their minds. Caleb Doom, sensing the shift in the clones, watched in horror as his master fell to the blaster's fire. Desperately he fled into the forest, but the Bad Batch was relentless. With their combined strength, they tracked him down, cornering the young Padawan. Hunter, though fighting an internal battle against the chip's control, couldn't resist. With a single shot, he ended Caleb's life before the boy could escape. The Bad Batch returned to Kamino, the stormy ocean world where they were created. Their mission was complete, and the Kaminoans were intrigued by the activation of the inhibitor chips in this group of genetically unique clones. Under orders from the newly established Empire, the Bad Batch was kept on Kamino, their potential as tools for the Empire too great to ignore. Nala Se, the chief scientist, and Lama Su, the Prime Minister, saw them as an opportunity to study the effects of the chips on genetically modified clones. Days turned into weeks as the clones underwent a series of tests, but on one stormy day, an Imperial shuttle arrived, and out of the entrance walked Moff Tarkin. His presence sent a wave of unease through the facility. He was here on the Emperor's orders, and the reason soon became clear. Tarkin gathered the Bad Batch in one of Kamino's training areas. The facility was large, with obstacles and stimulated battle environments designed to test even the most skilled soldiers. Tarkin had the Bad Batch tested, and watched from an observational deck, his cold eyes assessing the Bad Batch below.
I've heard stories about their abilities, but the Empire does not rely on word of mouth. They must prove their worth.
The test was simple in concept, but brutal in execution. The Bad Batch would be fitted against waves of droids, far more than any normal squad could handle. This involved completing a series of objectives designed to test their coordination, strategy, and adaptability under pressure. As the first waves of droids surged forward, Hunter immediately took command, issuing orders with precision. Wrecker charged into the fray, his strength demolishing droids in his path. Tech hacked into the stimulation systems, gaining temporary control of some of the droids and turning them against their own. Echo used his cybernetic enhancements, providing crucial battlefield intelligence, allowing the squad to stay one step ahead of the enemy. And Crosshair had the Bad Batch's back in case any enemies got close. The waves of droids increased in difficulty, but the Bad Batch adapted with each new challenge. When their final objective was completed and the last droid fell, the training area went silent. Tarkin, who had watched the entire test without a word, finally spoke, telling the Bad Batch they have exceeded his expectations and the Emperor will be pleased. They will accompany him to Coruscant, where his true purpose will be revealed. Tarkin led the Bad Batch through the labyrinth of corridors inside the Imperial Palace until they reached the Emperor's throne room. The gigantic door slid open, revealing the darkened interior where Emperor Palpatine awaited. The Bad Batch knelt instinctively, their inhibitor chips ensuring their obedience. Tarkin remained standing, his posture rigid and respectful. The Emperor's yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he addressed the squad before him.
Rise, my soldiers. You have done well in executing Order 66. Your actions have contributed greatly to the fall of the Jedi and rise of my Empire.
The Emperor's gaze shifted to Tarkin, who gave a slight nod of acknowledgement.
These clones have proven themselves worthy beyond expectation, my lord. Their skills are unparalleled. Indeed, that is why I have chosen you for a special assignment.
At that moment, the doors at the back of the room opened, and the unmistakable sound of mechanical breathing filled the air. The Bad Batch turned to see the towering figure of Darth Vader striding into the room, his presence casting a shadow over them. Vader stopped beside Palpatine and looked upon the Bad Batch, remembering them from his time as Anakin Skywalker. He feels a cold satisfaction within him. Their unique abilities could serve his purpose as well, but they are tools, nothing more.
You will serve under Lord Vader. He will lead you in the hunt for the remaining Jedi. Together you will crush any who oppose the Empire.
The inhibitor chips in the clones' heads pulsed with the command, overriding any doubts or resistance. Vader's gaze swept over the squad, evaluating them silently.
You will obey orders without question. Your loyalty is to the Empire and to me.
We are yours to command, Lord Vader.
The Bad Batch nodded in unison, and they left Coruscant alongside Vader. Hey guys, before I continue the video, I'd just like to quickly shout out my Sabers shop, Fantasy Sabers, where we sell high quality NeoPixel Saber replicas, as well as some insane unique Saber designs, from Nova Flare to King's Guard. Go check them out through the link in the top of the description, and find your one-stop shop for all your Saber needs. The Bad Batch's new life under the command of Vader was relentless. Each mission they undertook was steeped in darkness, their inhibitor chips forcing them to carry out the Emperor's will without hesitation. They became an extension of Vader himself, a specialized unit that operates independently from the Inquisitors, but with the same goal, to hunt down and eradicate the remaining Jedi. Months passed as they embarked on mission after mission, tracking down Jedi across the galaxy. The Batch's unique abilities made them highly effective. Hunter's tracking abilities, Tech's vast knowledge and hacking skills, Wrecker's brute strength, Echo's strategic mind, and Crosshair's deadly accurate shot made them a lethal squad. On one such mission, they cornered Jedi Master Thawne on the storm-ravaged world of Felucia. The Jedi Thawne fought valiantly, using the lush and dangerous environment to their advantage. But the Bad Batch tactics were flawless. Hunter tracked the Jedi's movements through the dense forest, guiding Wrecker and Tech to set traps, whilst Echo coordinated their assault. Thawne was eventually overwhelmed, falling to their combined assault with no chance of escape. Their success earned them a grim reputation amongst surviving Jedi and forming rebel cells, but the Bad Batch felt no satisfaction from their victories. The inhibitor chips continued to suppress any doubts or remorse, driving them forward in their brutal mission. One day as they returned to their base on Nur, Vader was waiting for them in a dimly lit chamber.
Your next target is a Jedi of great importance. He is more dangerous than any of you have ever faced before. His name is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
The Bad Batch recognized the name from their time during the Clone War.
You will find him and report his location directly to me. I will handle the rest.
With that, the Bad Batch was dismissed, and they returned to their quarters. Already beginning to strategize their approach, the squad gathered in their planning room around the hollow table. A map of the galaxy flickered to life, filled with countless worlds and star systems.
Kenobi is a ghost.
Tech began, his fingers dancing over the controls to bring up data on potential hiding spots.
There is very little information on his whereabouts. The last confirmed sighting was on Utapau during the final days of the Clone War, but that was years ago.
Echo added, his mechanical hand tapping the table in thought.
He's had plenty of time to disappear.
Wrecker leaned in, his expression frustrated.
So, how do we find him? The galaxy's a big place.
Hunter, the ever-strategist, narrowed his eyes at the map.
We had to think like him. Kenobi was a general, a leader. He wouldn't hide anywhere. He'd pick a place with a purpose. Somewhere he could lay low but also keep an eye on things. The Jedi are a sentimental race, and this is the key to finding him.
Tech nodded, adjusting the map to highlight remote and uninhabited worlds.
Kenobi wouldn't go somewhere the Empire has a strong presence, but he wouldn't go somewhere completely desolate. He'd need some level of civilization for supplies, information, and to blend in.
Tech highlighted a series of planets in the Outer Rim: Lothal, Sullust, Ryloth, and Tatooine.
These worlds have minimal Imperial presence, and are far enough from major hyperspace lanes to avoid casual notice. But they are also populated enough for someone to hide in plain sight.
Wrecker frowned as he looked at the map.
Kenobi's smart. He's not just gonna hang out in some big city, right? He'll be hiding somewhere we won't expect.
Hunter nodded.
We need to think about where Kenobi would feel the connection. Somewhere he's been before. Somewhere that would have meaning to him. He wouldn't pick a random planet.
Echo tapped a holonet, sifting through historical records, military reports, and old Jedi archives.
Kenobi was involved in countless missions during the Clone Wars. He had allies, contacts, people who might help him.
Tech pulled up a list of potential allies, worlds where the Jedi had strong ties, or where they had fought during the Clone War.
These are all possibilities, but we need to narrow it down.
They debated several possibilities, Lothal had seen Jedi activity, but it was a hotbed for rebel activity, making it too risky. Sullus was remote, but the Empire had established mining operations there, which would make it hard to stay hidden.
Says here, Kenobi was born on Strijon. Could he be there?
Unlikely. They don't usually tell Jedi where they came from. What about places where he spent significant time during the Clone Wars?
They considered Ryloth, where Kenobi fought alongside Cham Syndulla, but they dismissed it, due to the increasing Imperial presence and resistance activity. They looked at Mandalore, where he had a deep connection, but the political instability and Imperial occupation ruled it out. It was Echo who finally brought up the data on Tatooine.
Tatooine is remote, sparsely populated, and the kind of place where someone can disappear for years without drawing attention.
Tech added,
Tatooine is under Hutt control, not the Empire. The Hutts don't care about Jedi or Empire politics, as long as their business isn't disturbed.
Hunter considered the implications.
Tatooine is a backwater planet. It's not a place you'd expect to find a Jedi, which might be exactly why Kenobi would choose it. He could blend in among the moisture farmers and smugglers.
Wrecker scratched his head.
But why would he go there? What's the draw?
Tech, check Kenobi's file. There must be a connection to Tatooine. Kenobi does have a connection. Tatooine is where he found his apprentice Anakin Skywalker and brought the boy back to Coruscant, leaving his family behind. That's it. That's the connection. If Kenobi is here, he's likely keeping a very low profile.
They contact Lord Vader immediately.
Lord Vader, we believe we located Kenobi on Tatooine. The Jedi had deep connections to this planet, as that's where he found his apprentice Anakin Skywalker. And there's minimal Imperial occupation. The perfect hiding place.
Vader pauses, both at the mention of his name, but also the knowledge that Kenobi is on Tatooine. It's obvious, the one place Vader would least likely go. The Bad Batch and Darth Vader descended upon Tatooine, with a quiet yet ominous purpose. Vader stood at the forefront, ordering the Bad Batch to do what they do best. Tech hacked the city's electrical grid, and connected to all of the containers in the city, in search of the name Kenobi. They found the mention of a Ben Kenobi, and how he lives outside the city alone, and they head there immediately. Vader moved alone, his cape billowing in the hot desert breeze. He breaks into Kenobi's cave to reveal a figure seated in meditation. The once vibrant Jedi Master was now a mere shadow of himself. Obi-Wan Kenobi had cut himself off from the Force. Vader breathing was the only sound as he stepped into the room.
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan turned. His eyes were dulled by years of solitude and regret. He looked up at Vader. Recognition flickered in his gaze, but there was no fear, only a sad resignation.
Vader,
He said softly.
so it ends here then.
Vader ignited his lightsaber, and there was no hesitation, no conversation. Kenobi had made his choice to sever his ties with the Force, and for that, he was defenseless. The strike was swift and precise, and Obi-Wan slumped to the floor lifeless. But as his life faded, something else emerged. Vader reached out with the Force, probing Kenobi's mind, delving into the remnant of his memories. And what he found was the existence of a boy named Luke Skywalker, living here on Tatooine. Vader's realization was instantaneous. This was his son, hidden from him for years, and he headed to the last residence. He ordered the Bad Batch to find the boy, and they do so, bringing him before Vader with Owen and Beru. Vader's eyes fixated on his son, the resemblance clear at only 5 years old.
Take the boy. Kill the rest.
And the Lars met a merciless end. On Mustafar, Vader began training Luke in secret. He introduced the boy to the dark side, guiding him through the same harsh lessons he had once ensured. The Bad Batch, now loyal to Vader more so than the Emperor, due to their time at Vader's side, assisted in Luke's training. Hunter taught tracking and survival. Tech focused on strategy and technology. Echo imparted knowledge of history and Imperial protocols. Wrecker helped him build physical strength and combat skills, whilst Crosshair perfected his shot. Weeks turned into months, and Vader revealed to the boy that he was his father. Luke was stunned, but felt love for his father, and under his tutelage, he had become strong, focused, and the darkness within him began to grow. Meanwhile on Tatooine, Bail Organa arrived, his heart heavy with the dread when he found Kenobi's lifeless body. There was no sign of Luke, only the marks of Imperial presence. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Organa knew he needed help and contacted Ahsoka Tano, who arrived on Alderaan. He told Ahsoka about what he'd found on Tatooine and the truth of Anakin's children, that his daughter Leia, is really the daughter of Anakin and Padme. The revelation struck Ahsoka, as she thought Padme's children died with her. Organa tells Ahsoka that if Vader has taken Luke, they need to prepare Leia, as she is the only hope for the galaxy. Ahsoka agreed, taking Leia under her wing, training her in secret. For the next decade, the Bad Batch and Darth Vader took on the role of Luke's training, each contributing their unique expertise to his development. Initially, the clones inhibited chips compelling them to serve Vader without question, their will subdued by the remnant of their conditioning. But as time passed, the chip's influence began to wane, leaving the Bad Batch in a state of confusion and conflict. Their memories and personalities resurfaced, but their prolonged exposure to Vader had altered them, creating a blend of their own selves with the new. As the years went by, the Bad Batch grew fond of Luke, seeing him more than just a student. They came to care for him deeply, treating him as a younger brother, or even as a son. Their training sessions were intense, but filled with a sense of camaraderie and love. They saw in Luke a potential for greatness, and they took pride in shaping him into a warrior. However, they couldn't ignore the darkness Vader was instilling in him. Luke's connection to the Force was strong, but Vader's teachings were tainted by the dark side. The Bad Batch watched with growing unease, as the boy they cared for began to embrace the anger, hatred, and fear that Vader encouraged. Despite their reservations, the Bad Batch felt powerless to intervene. The bond they had formed with Vader was complex, a mix of fear, respect, and loyalty. Their inhibitor chips had once controlled them, but now it was their own twisted sense of duty and loyalty to Vader and to Luke that kept them in line. Meanwhile, on Alderaan, Leia Organa was undergoing her training. Ahsoka Tano had taken her under her wing, teaching her the ways of the Force, lightsaber combat, and the values of the Jedi. Leia was strong, determined, and unyielding, her natural leadership qualities honed by Ahsoka's guidance. Over the years, Leia grew into a formidable warrior, but she had reached the limits of what Ahsoka could teach her. Sensing this, Ahsoka reached out to Yoda through the Force, who had been hiding on Dagobah. The ancient Jedi Master agreed to come to Alderaan to complete Leia's training. He arrived and began to teach her the deep mysteries of the Force. However, the disturbance in the Force caused by Yoda's presence did not go unnoticed. Emperor Palpatine sensed the powerful vergence in the Force on Alderaan. He interpreted this as the doing of the rebellion, assisted by the Jedi, and a potential threat to his empire. Palpatine ordered Vader to investigate and eliminate all rebel activity. Vader, accompanied by the Bad Batch and Luke, whom Palpatine thought was an Inquisitor, prepared for the mission. They head to Alderaan with Vader's fleet and occupy the planet. Organa instantly called the Rebel Alliance for support, as without it, Vader would no doubt destroy the planet. Now a skilled warrior, prepared for the confrontation ahead, and Vader felt a presence he hadn't felt in a long time. They set foot on Alderaan, with their forces and the Bad Batch lead the Stormtrooper army. The Rebel Alliance come out in full force and meet Vader's forces on the surface. The Battle of Alderaan unfolded on the surface of the planet, its serene landscapes shattered by the chaos of war. As the Imperial forces advanced, Vader's gaze locked on two figures in the distance, Yoda and Leia. The confrontation was inevitable. Vader, with his blade ignited, strode forward to face the Grand Master. Luke moved forward to engage Leia and Ahsoka, unaware of the connection between them. As the battles commenced, the Bad Batch took up position around the battlefield, observing the unfolding duels. Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Echo, and Crosshair felt an unease gnawing at them, a sense that something was wrong. They watched as Luke clashed with Leia, their lightsabers a blur of blue and red, and as Vader faced off against Yoda. Luke and Leia's duel was intense, their skills nearly matched, but as their blades collided, a deeper connection began to emerge. Through the Force, they sensed each other's presence, not as enemies, but as siblings. The realization struck simultaneously. They were brother and sister. They both lowered their lightsabers, unaware what to do in the face of this new knowledge. Meanwhile, the battle between Yoda and Vader raged on. The Bad Batch, witnessing the duel, began to question their allegiance. They had followed Vader out of duty, but now, seeing Jedi Yoda, Ahsoka, and Leia, they were reminded by the ideals they had once stood for. It was Echo who first voiced his doubts.
This isn't right. We were created to serve the Republic, not this twisted version of it.
Hunter nodded.
We've been fighting on the wrong side. Our loyalty to Vader was built on a lie.
The team quickly formulated a plan, a contingency they had developed early on in their time with Vader, should they ever need to subdue him. They had noticed the subtle signs of vulnerability in Vader's armor and had gathered intelligence on the weakness of his life support system. As Vader pressed his attack on Yoda, the Bad Batch made their move. Hunter and Tech disabled Vader's life support remotely using a specialized EMP device, and Wrecker and Echo moved in to engage Vader directly. Vader, realizing what was happening, faltered. His breathing became labored, his strength waning as the Force seemed to slip from his grasp. In a final act of defiance, he swung his lightsaber at Wrecker, but Echo intervened, tackling his brother out of the way. Yoda, sensing the shift, seized the opportunity. With a final decisive blow, he struck Vader down, ending the Sith Lord's reign. As Vader's lifeless body fell to the ground, Luke rushed to his side, grief overwhelming him. Despite everything, Vader was his father, and the sight of him cut Luke deeply. Yoda, Ahsoka, and Leia approached, and Leia placed a hand on Luke's shoulder, her touch gentle but firm, telling Luke that their father was consumed by the dark side, but he doesn't have to walk the same path. That is not what their mother would have wanted. Luke, torn between the pull of the darkness and the memory of the light, looked up at Leia, Yoda, and Ahsoka, and saw truth in their eyes, that he could be different, that he could redeem himself. He extinguished his lightsaber and hugged his sister. The Bad Batch, having witnessed this, made their decision as well. They had seen the truth, and their loyalty to Vader was built upon a foundation of lies and manipulation. They approached the Jedi.
We're done fighting for the Empire. We're with you now.
With the Bad Batch defecting to the Rebel Alliance, their expertise and knowledge significantly bolstered the strength of the Rebel forces. The tide of the war was beginning to turn. Their next stop was the Imperial Palace on Coruscant. The final battle for the fate of the galaxy was approaching, and with Luke, Leia, Yoda, Ahsoka, and the Bad Batch united, the Rebels prepared to strike a decisive blow against the Empire, determined to restore peace and justice to the galaxy. Ignite your imagination with Fantasy Sabers. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out What If Anakin Was Granted the Rank of Master and What If Luke Joined the Imperial Academy. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out the voice actors in the description. Don't forget to check out fantasysabers.com for all your saber needs, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Kingsguard. Go check them out through the link in the top of the description and find your one-stop shop for all your saber needs.